the devil and all the powers of darkness. So in verse 12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. The combat for which we are to be prepared is not against ordinary human enemies, not barely against men compounded of flesh and blood, nor against our own corrupt natures singly considered, but against the several ranks of devils who have government which they exercise in this world. We have to do with a stubborn enemy, and an enemy who uses wiles and stratagems. He has 1,000 ways of beguiling unstable souls, and hence he is called a serpent for subtlety, an old serpent, experienced in the art and trade of tempting. He is a powerful enemy, and the principalities and powers and rulers, they are numerous and they are vigorous and rule in those heathen nations which are yet in darkness. The dark part of the world are the seat of Satan's empire, and yet they are usurping princes over all men who are yet in a state of sin and ignorance. Satan is a kingdom of darkness, whereas Christ is a kingdom of light. There are spiritual enemies, spiritual wickedness in high places, or wicked spirits, as some translate it. The devil is a spirit, a wicked spirit, and our danger is the greater from our enemies because they are unseen and assault us, and we are unaware of them. And the devils are wicked spirits, and they chiefly annoy the saints, which provoke them to spiritual wickedness such as pride, envy, and malice, and etc. These enemies are said to be in high places or in heavenly places, so the word is taking heaven, as one says, for the whole expansion or spreading out of the air between the earth and the stars, the air being the place from which the devil assaults us. Or the meaning may be, we wrestle about heavenly places and things. Our enemies strive to prevent our ascent to heaven, to deprive us of and to deprive us of heavenly blessings, and to obstruct us in our communion with heaven. They assault us in things that belong to our souls, and labor to deface the heavenly image in our hearts. And therefore we need to be upon our guard against them. We have need of faith in our Christian warfare, because we have spiritual enemies to grapple with, and as well as of faith in our Christian work, and because we have spiritual strength to fetch in. Thus you see your danger. What our duty is to take and put on the whole armor of God, and then to stand our ground and withstand our enemies. We must withstand in verse 13. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. We must not yield to the devil's allurements and assaults, but oppose them. Satan is said to stand up against us. If you look at 1 Chronicles 21 and 1, let's go to 1 Chronicles 21 and 1. Yeah, I believe that's 1 Chronicles 21 and 1. Let me make sure I'm right. 1 Chronicles 21 and 1. And it says in 1 Chronicles 21:1, if you read the first verse, it says, Satan, an adversary, stood up against Israel and stirred up David to number Israel. And y'all wonder what that means. And I'll read a little bit. And it says, David said to Joab and the rulers of the people, go number Israel from Beersheba to Dan, and bring me the total, that I may know it. And Joab answered, May the Lord multiply his people 100 times. But my lord the king, are they not all my lord's servants? Why then does my lord require this? Why will he bring guilt upon Israel? So, if you hear that, we just read that, wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand the evil in the evil day, and having done all to stand. We must not yield to the devil's allurements and assaults, but oppose them. So in 1 Chronicles 21, 1 through 3, David, if he stands up, David counted the people of Israel, which his prophet, I believe, Joab, told him that God is the one that increases the number. So if we stand up against us, if he stands up against us, we must stand against him. Set up and keep up an interest in opposition to the devil. Satan is the wicked one, and his kingdom is the kingdom of sin, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, in the day of temptation or of any sore affliction. We must stand our ground, and having done all to stand, we must resolve by God's grace not to yield to Satan. Resist him, and he will flee. If we distrust our cause, or our leader, or our armor, we give him advantage. Our present business is to withstand the assaults of the devil, and to stand it out, and then, having done all that is incumbent on the good soldier of Jesus Christ, our warfare will be accomplished, and we shall be finally victorious. So, if you look at 2 Corinthians 10 and 4, let's go to 2 Corinthians 10 and 4. Okay, I'm a little slow. 2 Corinthians, I missed it. 2 Corinthians 10 and 4. Hold up. 10 and 4. 2 Corinthians 10 and 4 says, The weapons of our warfare are not physical weapons of flesh and of blood, but they are mighty before God for the overthrow and destruction of strongholds. So, our weapons of our warfare, they're not carnal, but mighty through God, to the pulling down of those strongholds. John 18, let's go to John 18 and 36. And these are all in reference to verse 13. Okay? So we're now in John 18:36. And it says, Jesus answered, My kingship, royal power belongs not to this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my followers would have been fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not from here, this world. It has no such origin or source. And this is Jesus. This is what Jesus says, that his kingdom is not of this world. So it's a spiritual kingdom. We must stand armed, and this most enlarged upon here is a Christian in complete armor, and the armor is divine. So we talked about that. So now we're the armor of God, the armor of light. If you look at Romans 13 and 12, it talks about that also. Romans 13 and 12. Just giving some scripture related to what our armor is and why it is called light. And let's go to the 12th verse. The night is far gone. And this is Romans 13. That's the 12 and 13. The night is far gone, and the day is almost here. Let us then drop and fling away the works and deeds of darkness and put on the full armor of light. 13. Let us live and conduct ourselves honorably and becomingly as in the open light of day, not in reveling, carousing, and drunkenness, not in immorality and debauchery, sensuality and licentiousness, and not in quarreling and jealousy, because we are the armor of light. So the 12th verse says, the night is far gone and the day is almost here. Let us then drop and fling away the works and deeds of darkness and put on the full armor of light. And the armor of light is the armor of God. The armor of light. So armor of righteousness is also part of the armor. It's part of the armor, but it's not described in it, but it's also a part of it. So if you look at 2 Corinthians 6 and 7, in 2 Corinthians 6 and 7, 2 Corinthians 6 and 7, by speaking the word of truth in the power of God, with the weapons of righteousness for the right hand to attack and for the left hand to defend. Is that something, you guys? So the apostle specifies the particulars of this armor, both offensive and defensive. The military girdle or belt, the breastplate, and or the greaves or soldier's shoes, the shield, the helmet, and the sword. Is observable that among them all there is none for the back. If we turn our back upon the enemy, we lie exposed. So that's why there's none for the back. We have the defensive and offensive. We have that defensive, the one most important one and we'll go into that, is the truth or sincerity is our girdle. Let's go to verse 14. The belt, verse 14. Stand therefore, having your loins girded about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness. Now we talked about the armor of righteousness. We talked about the righteousness, the armor of righteousness, which is his, by the word of truth, by the power of God, by the armor of righteousness on the right hand and on the left. So when he talks about this, it was prophesied of Christ in Isaiah 11 and 5. Let's talk about this 11 and 5. Isaiah 11 and 5. Isaiah 11, 5. In Isaiah 11 and 5, it says, and righteousness shall be the girdle of his waist, and faithfulness the girdle of his loins. And girdle, of course, is belt. So, and righteousness shall be the belt of his waist, and faithfulness the belt of his loins. So, it was prophesied of Christ that this was on him, that righteousness should be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins. So, and that which Christ was girded, or girdled with, or belted with, all Christians must be belted with. God desires truth, that is, sincerity in the inward parts, inside of us. This is the strength of our loins, and it girds on all other pieces. It holds up all other pieces of our armor, and therefore it is first mentioned. Some understand it of the doctrine of the truths of the gospel. They should cleave to us as the girdle does to the loins. Jeremiah 13:11. Let's go to Jeremiah 13:11. 13